Happy holidays and welcome to the award-winning RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by our good friends at Underdog Fantasy. It is Friday, December 29th, 2023, and it's just me, Ken K-Train Kreitz. All aboard! Our good friends Alex and Shannon are traveling for the holidays, and I hope to pick up the slack. Anyway, today's shortened format will be news, fan feedback, waiver wire, and then our usual silliness. Let's start with the news. Last night, Thursday, Celtics squeak by the Pistons in overtime, 128-122. The Pistons have now lost 28 straight, tied for the longest losing streak in NBA history. That includes losing streaks that cover more than one season. Pistons played well, actually. They out-rebounded Boston in Boston, 57 boards to 42, and they had a 21-point lead at one point. Boston was without Jalen Brown due to a back issue. Veteran Al Horford got the start instead. In fantasy news, though, Jaden Ivey had a great game. The guard put up 22 points, 10 rebounds, 4 dimes. He had 3 triples and a block over 33 minutes. Ivey started the last 5 games for these Pistons, even with Killian Hayes back. And he ranks 119th last 14 days in per-game production for 8 category leagues. Anyway, we'll talk about Ivey a little more in the waiver wire section. Out in Denver, Nikola Jokic with a perfect triple-double in Denver's big 142-105 win over the Grizzlies. Again, that was at home in Denver. Why was the triple-double perfect? Well, because the Joker was perfect from the field. He hit 11 of 11 shots from the field and was 3 for 3 from the charity stripe. He did have 3 turnovers. I'm not sure I'd call it perfect, but that is a perfect double-double, technically. He had 26 points, 14 rebounds, and 10 helpers over 30 minutes of run. I think the Nuggets will take that. Jamal Murray also chipped in with 23 points and 9 helpers. Denver, they've won 9 of their last 10, and they're now only a game and a half back of the Timberwolves. So the champions are kind of returning to their rightful spot. No Aaron Gordon last night for Denver. He is out due to dog bites. Yes, dog bites. Apparently, he has face and hand lacerations due to a Christmas Day dog encounter that led to 21 stitches. No timetable for Gordon's return, though we at RotoWire are kind of guessing first or second week here in January. For Memphis, no Ja Morant due to illness. Grizzlies are 4-0 with Morant playing after his suspension, and Marcus Smart is back. So things are finally looking up for the Grizzlies, despite last night's loss. In other news, the Miami Heat, without Jimmy Butler, breezed past the Golden State Warriors in San Francisco. A career game for second-year reserve Jamal Cain. Cain came off the bench for 18 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 steals over 28 minutes. He played great D. It's a fun game to watch. This is just classic Miami Heat, getting productivity from some undrafted, unknown player. Cain played college ball at Oakland University for 1 year after 4 modest years at Big East powerhouse Marquette. That 5th year at Oakland, Cain averaged 20 points and 10 rebounds. Of course, I think he was 23 or 22 years old at the time, but pretty sweet average that 1 year at Oakland. Interesting. Let's keep an eye out for Jamal Cain. Jimmy Butler has now missed 4 games in a row. He did partially participate in practice Wednesday. Try saying that fast. Will he play Saturday in Utah? Who knows? The Miami Heat injury reporting is a pain in our rear, to be honest. But we do certainly hope Jimmy Buckets and his fun PR profile are back on Saturday in Utah. And finally, the last news nugget. Pacers beat the Bulls 120-104 in Chicago. Coach Carlisle and the Indianapolis Pacers, they're experimenting with starting lineups. They went with Aaron Nesmith, Jalen Smith, and Andrew Nebhart as starters in the win at Chicago. You got to keep in mind, the Pacers are only 16-14 despite that in-season tournament success. They're not exactly a well-oiled machine for the long run here. It does make sense for Carlisle to experiment with lineups. I think they had Heald and Mathurin and Toppin coming off the bench. We'll talk a little more about that in the waiver wire situation section as well. Bad news in Chicago. Nikolai Vucevic, Vooch, he missed his second straight game due to a groin strain. Andre Drummond started, was huge on Tuesday, but kind of returned to normal last night in the loss to the Pacers. Anyway, that Vucevic news is quite the bummer. He's going to be out probably most, if not all, of next week as well for the Bulls. So that's going to give Drummond some nice run in the starting lineup. We'll see, something to keep in mind if you need rebounds. Okay, now let's hear from our good friends at Underdog Fantasy, and then afterwards we'll get into fan feedback, so please start queuing your questions now. Anyway, Underdog Fantasy is the #1 platform for NBA best ball and DFS player pick'em contests. If you haven't tried Underdog yet, new Underdog users receive a first-time deposit bonus up to $100 and a free 6-month subscription to RotoWire with promo code RWNBA. That's promo code RWNBA. Yes, the RW stands for RotoWire. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or download the Underdog app today and use promo code RWNBA to claim your free RotoWire subscription and deposit bonus. That's code RWNBA. Okay, let's get to the fan feedback. Did I watch the Blazers game? Scoot seems to have a pulse. That is true. I only caught parts and highlights of that Blazers game, but they're gradually working Scoot back. Of course, it helps. I don't think Simon's played in that game. To look up what his issue has been. And I'll say this, look, Malcolm Brogdon is not going to play 70-plus games for the Blazers or anyone else he's traded to at the deadline. So sooner or later, Scoot is going to be a starter in Portland. Got to start last night with Simmons out due to illness. And I think it's a great speculative ad if you can handle the hit to your field goal percentage, certainly in points leagues. I know everyone invested heavily in him in the offseason, drafts and auctions, and he was a big disappointment. But he indeed, he's got free key. He's got more than a pulse, and I kind of like him for the last third of the season because I don't think we're going to see Malcolm Brogdon in a Trailblazers uniform come the February deadline. Okay, well, that seems to be it for fan feedback questions. Hope everyone's having a wonderful holiday. Let's cut back now for our waiver wire sections, the money segment, if you will, of our weekly pod. We're going to go, normally we have 3 hosts that each go with 2 regular picks and 1 long shot. Since it's just me, I'm going to cough up 6 names, 4 that seem like excellent ads and 2 sort of long shots. And we'll discuss them along the way. Forgive me, it's hard to do all the hosting here as well as see live questions. But if we get some more questions, maybe we'll answer them after the waiver wire section. My first ad this week is that guard for Detroit, Jaden Ivey. For your Pistons, he's 52% rostered in Yahoo leagues. He started the last 5 games for Detroit. Frankly, don't know why he hasn't started more. Though he did play very poorly off the bench, which was killing his stats. But the last 5 games as a starter, almost 19 points, almost 6.5 rebounds, and over 5 dimes, while shooting 48% from the field and hitting about 1.5 3-pointers. He's ranked 118th in 8 category leagues over the last 14 days. Better in points league due to his free throw shooting and turnovers. Anyway, the Pistons have 4 games next week. I think Ivey has finally turned the corner, convinced Coach Monty he should be starting. He was certainly a key part of that real challenge they gave the Celtics last night. So let's hope Monty does the right thing, sticks with Ivey as a starter for those struggling Pistons. Okay, free agent pick number 2, Craig Porter of your Cleveland Cavaliers. The undrafted rookie is rostered in only 22% of leagues on Yahoo. He's playing big minutes with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell injured. Hopefully we see Mitchell return shortly. But Garland is out until at least January 7th with that jaw issue. That's a serious injury. And Porter's taking advantage, getting major minutes. The 23-year-old undrafted rookie out of Wichita State has averaged the following during the last 4 games, which have all been starts for Porter. Over 10 points, over 7 rebounds, and 8 assists a game with 2.6 stocks over 31 minutes of run. It's a great stat line. And the Cavs, they also have 4 games a week. Now, fans, before we get into more waiver wire stuff, if you like this video, find it helpful, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below to make sure you get all the future good content from all 3 hosts on our usual weekly podcast, as well as all the other podcasts we run during the week. Anyway, yes, Craig Porter and the Cavs have 4 games next week. My third waiver wire pick is Peyton Watson of the Denver Nuggets. He's only 8% rostered in Yahoo. The second-year player is starting with Aaron Gordon, who's out with those dog bites. No timetable for his return. Watson got to start last night, the first game without Gordon. Got to start in Thursday's win over Memphis, put up 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. You might remember Watson was a late first-round pick out of UCLA in the 2022 draft. He's only 21 years old, plenty of upside here. And Watson hits threes. He took 10 3-point attempts last night. He hit 4 of them from behind the arc. He's going to keep gunning for threes, has a nice 3-point percentage. And per 36 minutes this season, he's averaging 3 stocks. So I think there's a lot of upside for this run Watson's going to get while Gordon's out. He's certainly going to get a lot of big, wide-open jumpers with the Joker attracting all the attention and Murray attracting all the attention. You can just picture Watson draining a lot of corner threes as he's left wide open. And your Nuggets, they also have 4 games next week. All right. Now let's move on to number 4 free agent pick. And that's Trayce Jackson-Davis, the rookie for the Golden State Warriors. We mentioned him last week's pod. He's 26% rostered on Yahoo. The rookie's getting big minutes with Draymond Green out. We don't know when he returns. You know, his suspension's indefinite, though Woj did say it's possible he could return late next week. We'll see. I'm not sure the NBA is going to be that lenient. As far as Trayce Jackson-Davis goes, qualifies as a forward and center on Yahoo, which is nice. He's just a forward on ESPN. But the last 6 games for TJD, almost 11 points, over 9 rebounds, 1.2 blocks with solid percentages, and those Warriors have 4 games next week. I should say next week, everyone's got 4 games, except for 10 teams with only 3 games. It should be a week for your squad to get a lot of games played this week. As always, you can use the scores and then upcoming games section on RotoWire for an easy way to see who's playing a lot of games. The Warriors are be playing 4. Let's cut now to my 2 long shots. So my 5th free agent pick for this week is Jalen Smith of your Indiana Pacers. He's only 14% rostered. He started the last 2 games at powered forward for the Pacers. He qualifies at forward and center on both Yahoo and ESPN. The Pacers have 4 games next week. And hey, Coach Carlisle, he's still experimenting. Aaron Nesmith and Jalen Smith were the starting forwards in Thursday's win at Chicago, with Obi Toppin coming off the bench. Frankly, Toppin's been pretty soft at forward, which made it surprising that as a reserve, he grabbed 12 rebounds. I suspect he's finally heard those coaches griping about his lack of work on the boards. Aaron Nebhard also got the start for the Pacers. Remember, everyone thinks the Pacers are red hot because they had success during the in-season tournament, but they're only 16-14 with last night's win. They're very young. You may have noticed Tyrese Halliburton had 20 assists and 0 turnovers last night. Mwah! That is delicious. But look, Jalen Smith will get you threes, will get you blocks. I'd love to see him stick as a more traditional power forward in this Pacers lineup. I think the Obi Toppin experiment as a starter has hopefully ended. He was getting out hustled by Aaron Nesmith. Though Nesmith is really a small forward and even a shooting guard, he was outworking Toppin to get better minutes as a power forward. But Smith really belongs there. But we'll see. I'm sure Carlisle will keep experimenting. And then my 6th and last long shot, I'm calling it a long shot despite his high roster standing, but is Andre Drummond, the backup center for Chicago. He is managed in 58% of leagues. Chicago has only 3 games next week. Vooch is hopefully returning January 5th or 7th for the Bulls after his groin strain issue hopefully goes away. So you're kind of looking at 1 week of a 3-game production for Drummond in weekly leagues. A little more appealing in daily leagues where you can make as many transactions as you like. He had that huge 24-point, 25-rebound game on Tuesday for the Bulls, but really regressed to normal in Thursday's loss to the Pacers. Drummond saw only 21 minutes of run. He did have 16 boards, which was great. Did have a steal, but only 7 points on an ugly 3 of 9 shooting. He also shot an ugly 1 of 4 from the charity stripe. So Drummond's a nice short-term Band-Aid if you got daily transactions. But if you're running out of fab, I'd say let someone else go nuts for Drummond. And that is our waiver wire section. Let's check for fan questions. The Coos says, how long of a leash would you give Jakob Poeltl in a 10-team points league? Would Hartenstein be a better option? Yeah. Honestly, I think Hartenstein would be a better option. I might even experiment, just start streaming it. I just mentioned Jalen Smith. He qualifies at center in some leagues. This Raptors team is running in sand, wallowing in mediocrity, if you will. And they're grasping for straws. Poeltl's never going to help them in a fast-paced game. I think his minutes are going to wildly fluctuate depending on who they're facing. In the past, they've done a lot of spicy P, Pascal Siakam playing at center. I think they're going to go back to experiment with that. But this is a weird year for the Raptors. Siakam and OG are both free agents at the end of the year. I think you're going to see a lot of experimenting. You just can't bank on Poeltl's production. Somebody like Jonas Valanciunas has frankly been way out producing Poeltl. So that's dicey. All right, one more question we got. Ian asking, John Collins or Draymond Green rest of season? I'm definitely going Collins just because who really knows what's happening with Green's suspension. And I think they like what they're getting out of Trayce Davis, Jackson. And they'd be crazy not to keep giving that rookie more minutes. Plus, frankly, who knows when Draymond's going to do something stupid again when he does return. So I like I like John Collins. Has Collins been frustrating? Yes, but availability, games played is the number one stat. So I lean to Collins. Ian asks a second question. Would I go with Malcolm Brogdon or Detroit's Bogdanovich or OG Anunoby? I'd probably go with Bogdanovich, frankly. Pistons he's the only veteran, only outside shooting the Pistons have that's reliable. But OG's a quality look, 9 category. So OG's been disappointing, but he is finally starting to turn it around. I got to go Malcolm Brogdon third because I just don't see him being healthy, and I also see him being dealt at the trade deadline, and he's going to be a reserve probably wherever he gets traded to. Dina agrees. He just says he will. I'm not sure who he means there by he, but I'm happy when anyone seems to agree with me. Okay, that does it for the additional fan feedback. And we've already ended our waiver wire segment. It is now time for Ken's old man rant. Arg! I am too old for this StreamYard, YouTube, Twitter technology. Co-hosts Alex and Shannon, please come back from your holiday travel. I can't do this alone. Don't worry, fans. Alex and Shannon will return to help the K-Train next Friday. Thank goodness. Where's my medication? Arg! Mispronounced names. I'm sure I had a ton of them, but it's too hard to make note of them while being the only host. I apologize to every player whose name I butchered. That takes us to the end. Thanks for joining us on the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast presented by our good friends at Underdog Fantasy. Let's take us out of here with a nice quote from Chicago. Let's go to Chicago where Coach Billy Donovan had some rare good news about injured guard Lonzo Ball. You may recall Ball hasn't played in over 2 years due to knee injuries and has already been ruled out for the rest of this season. But after Ball was in Chicago this week, Donovan said, quote, the pain that he was experiencing that was causing the setback has been eliminated. Hopefully in January, he'll start running. That's the big thing. But everything they've done in terms of progressing him, he's handled very well, end quote. Excellent. Attention passengers, this one car fantasy train wreck has hit the end of the line.